Hey everybody, great to see you here again at the Red Barn. If you've been following the channel for a while, you know it's mostly Hot Rod 914 work we do here. And in this episode, we are back on the Ferrari 360 swapped 914. But let me tell you, I'm thrilled that you're here, and I'm going to ask you right now, like, share, subscribe, but more importantly, leave me a comment. I have gotten a couple of really good comments, suggestions, and I'm incorporating them into the build. You're going to see more about that in this episode. And one of the challenges of mostly working alone is there's not people around all the time saying, hey, why are you doing this that way? And so you guys chiming in on the comments section is great input, and you're going to see just how much it impacts me and this build in this episode. So stay tuned. I hope you enjoy. Okay, big, huge shout out to Hakila Ranch this time. Maybe I'll start a new thing. Whoever has the best comment, I'm going to mention it in the next episode and incorporate their idea. Anyway, our friend Mr. Hakila Ranch was the first. Now, many of you guys pointed this out, but I got to give credit to the guy that posted it first. So I went to all this trouble of building this clip mount. Immediately I get reminded, hey, why don't you just incorporate the clip into the mount and do away with all this hardware and make it a lot simpler? And of course, I had not even thought of doing that. But immediately upon hearing that comment, which happened, I don't know, was it like one of the most immediate comments that came in, I went back and downloaded of all things, you know, you gotta love the internet. I just did a search for Deutsch mounting clip, and I downloaded one. And so what I did was greatly simplified this thing and just have the clips molded onto or just made into this part. And I pulled the dash out so I could start working back in here. And so the issue I've got is I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to do for vent controls, if I'm going to use any at all, if I'm going to go with the complete standalone heat AC unit, I don't know. So I want to be a little bit careful about how much room I take up in here. And so I was playing around just for a little bit with like where this could go. And it strikes me that this location for these clips is not a horrible one. And it's like, okay, well, that's not going to work. I don't want to put it up in here because, I've got wires that have to get up in here. I might have those Bowden cables that run through here. So what I think I'm going to do is I think I'm going to start a new design. You guys have seen these before, I'm sure. This is one of those, contour gauges. And I just ran it up into here and got the contour of the dash right there. And yes, I have a 3D scanner, but by the time I did that, I figured this was going to be easier. And then what I did is I just traced that shape onto some 1/4-inch graph paper, and then what I find easy enough to do is I can just go in and dimension this off of the graph paper and then get this curve into Fusion, and then I'll take and I can extrude this shape into a panel, give it some thickness, and then stick these guys onto it, as many as I need, probably 5 or 6, coming around that corner. Now, the other thing that I discovered, if I can find my clips someplace, is as cool as this looks, let me just do it this way. If I assemble a couple of these, and I got a 4 connector here, here comes a 6, and I did this to the best of my ability that I can get a 6 and a 6 next to each other, and it still has plenty of room. But I didn't think ahead. When do I ever think ahead? And I know I have a couple of 3-position connectors. And what's interesting is, obviously because of 3 sides, where they put the clip affects where the unclipping component is. And so I've got both sides of the connectors on here for this very reason. And what you can see is that when I put the 3 on here, it's a little odd in that it's not the end of the world, but it's not going to be convenient to try to get up in here and pop this out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to figure out exactly how I want my connectors to lay out based on where the wires are going. And I can play with, I can route them probably however I need to. But what I'm going to do is on this clip, let's say this is where the 3 was going to go, I'm going to kick this out to whatever the appropriate degree is so that it slides in at that angle, and so that all of my releases will be out here. So that was a lesson learned of, make sure you test fit all this stuff first. Now maybe it'll be changed a little bit too by the time I wrap this around a corner. Maybe that'll expose this, but I think I'm still going to tip this out for the 3 position ones, just because I think that would be cool and a nice touch. But you can see that is super tidy, and to everybody who pointed it out, thank you very much. And yes, you are correct. I have no extra fasteners. I have no extra hardware. This is going to be much better. So I'm going to head inside now and try to remodel this thing and see if I can come up with that 3-dimensional mount that matches nicely the curve of the chassis right there. But anyway, here we go. Let's see how this one turns out. And then I take that graph paper where I drew that line, and I just work out the line. And this is that shape from that graph paper. And then what I did is I just drew an offset to make this shape right here. And then I did what's called extruding it, and you just basically tell how wide you want it to get, how wide you want this part to be, and it made this basic curved shape. Then I rebuilt the clip and essentially joined it together onto here with some nice fillets. But I'm going to go ahead now and print this as is. I'm not going to try to build this whole thing out. I want to make sure that I got this shape right. And here is the part. So let's go see how I did. Okay, moment of truth. First, does the clip fit? So let's see if the clip fits. And the answer is yes, the clip fits. Now that's the not locked in way. And by that I mean, those of you that may not know, you can see there's that little sort of bump up there right here on the part. And that means that if you put it in, that's what this little ledge here is for, right? If I put it in from this side, you can hear it, I think, but that little step locks it in. So if you want to lock it in, you can do that. But that's not the way I'm going to do it, because you remember, these are the pins, and remember, we always want the pins coming from the non-load side. So I want these to be put in this way. And obviously, if it got to the point where I wanted it to be locked, I can just flip that around on the design. But here's the money shot. So what I wanted was I wanted that thing to sit right there. Good heavens, I nailed it. That does not move at all. And so now I think you can see what I'm after. I want to mark where on here that is, and maybe that one, and make 2 little bump outs with fasteners so this thing could be attached just like that. And yeah, so one custom 914 chassis shaped Deutsch connector clip mounting system. Done. Almost. And after that quick print, we now have version 3. Now this was, to prove out my approach, I did a couple things. First, I took the piece of graph paper and I taped it to the side of this thing, to the old blue one, the first version, well, second version, and I held it up there and marked where the fastener is. And then I took that back inside, so I get you some contrast here, and I made the little tab mount. And you can see I'm trying to give myself a little bit of wiggle room. I made that an oval opening. And yeah, it turned out pretty good. So let's see if this fits. Okay, so there's lesson number 1 is I'm gonna have to add a recess underneath here or scoot that thing farther away, because you can see it's holding it off here because the head of the riv nut
is proud of the surface of this, so it's not letting it sit down. But in terms of where it fits, that fits perfectly. So now you can see, I think you can see, there's another one down here. And I probably could get away, well, no, I can't get away with one. That moves too much. It'll move less once I recess that or move it farther backwards. But I think I will go ahead now and mark. I marked for this one. I think I got it right. So I'm going to go add another tab here. But there is kind of what we're headed for. And if I, forgetting that this is the 3 position, if I give you that, that's what we're going to look like. Sorry. So that's pretty cool. I'm happy with that. I think that's going to work great. So now let me go make up another version. Okay, for this next version, it's time to get the mount locations worked out. And I've already done this design, but I'll just walk you through. It's not pretty. As I mentioned, I'm not great at this. But the timeline down here, you can just kind of move this indicator back and forth and show what's going on in each step. So these are the different things I did as I was moving through this process. So first I had to identify, and again, this is how I did it. I'm sure there's better ways and different ways and all that good stuff, but I identified the location where the bolt, where that nub needed to be, and I made myself a little reference piece that I could locate things on. And what did I do next? Deleted it, apparently. Then I just drew a sketch of the shape that I wanted that nub to be, that mount location, and then recessed it, then filleted it so that it's a little bit more supported. And what did I do then? At some point, I copied it. And here's the copy, and it just moves over, and then I had to come up with a way of rotating it, and you need a rotational axis. So I ended up just drawing a straight line down through the center of this so that it could rotate, clockwise, counterclockwise, and I could get it in the right orientation to the fastener. And then that's what happened next, or somewhere in here. And there is rotated, and there it is scooted inboard, so I've got the same offset as the other one. And so then it got sent to the printer, and here it is printing. All right, moment of truth for version number 4. And again, I know I have to do more of these because I don't have any mounts on this one yet. But let us see how I did. Well, I can tell you that offset dealio worked good. So that's okay. And did I even come close? I did not. That's off by a bunch. Well, that sucks. All right, here we go with this next version. So I will say, as much as I enjoy this, learning new stuff, there comes a point where it's like, all right, this needs to work. I'm tired. I want to move on to something else. All right, so there's the top one. And I recalculated with some precise calculations. And so this ought to, if I got it right, oh, yes. Wait for it. There it goes. Nice. Okay, there it is. Now, that is that. So that'll work. I mean, that's not going anywhere, but you can see it's got a bit of flex here. It's not exactly the perfect tight fit. And so probably what I should do, really the reason I went with this design is I already drilled holes in the chassis and I hate too many holes, so it just bugs me. But what I should probably do is put another mount right off of here and tie this here and leave this one here and lose this one. But I think for right now, I'm just going to call that good and say we have a connector mount for under the dash. All right, well, that was not 2 full days, but that was Saturday, Sunday of, just playing on the computer and learning more about Fusion and all that good stuff. But all in all, I'm calling that a success. So now I'll just go add the rest of those mounts and we'll be done. Yay.
just go add the rest of those mounts. Can you guess what happened? Well, here's part of what happened. I got sucked into trying a whole bunch of other things, and I ended up doing this. I ended up trying to get fancy and adding positions for those 3-pin connectors, 3-wire connectors, that put the clip, the release mechanism, in a different spot. And what it ends up doing is, I know this is stupid, but it's my poor OCD addled brain. It just was really inconsistent looking. Not that it matters because it's hidden under the dash. But I decided, oh, that was one thing. And then the other one was, I was going to all this trouble with these offset mounts. And I'm thinking, why are you doing this to yourself? Why don't you simplify it completely? Make all the mounts the same, evenly space, and just stick the fastener right in the middle of this thing so it evenly bolts to the dash. And so this is what I'm going with. I'm only going to have one 3-position connector on here. And depending upon just how bad that OCD gets, I may convert that over to a 4-pin and just have one dead spot in it. And yes, I'm going to end up drilling different holes for this, and I'm just going to have to get over that and either patch the ones that are there or insert some rubber plugs or something like that. But this is so much better an idea, or so much better a design. Let me go just mock this into the car, and I'll show you how much better this is in place. So just a mock-up, but here we go. Nothing sheathed, and that's about how it's going to be. Now, that's just 3 of them. I still have at least 2 more, and thankfully, this time I did think ahead. Now, I'm doing a bit of a spoiler alert. This is going to be coming in an upcoming episode, but here's the low hoop. It's not in, it's just fitted. We don't have the spreader plates, and obviously it's just, it's just sitting in here. But as I was working on where that was going to go, I thought, wait a second, there may not be enough room, but there is enough room. And so, yes, the good news is, if you're saying, well, how are you going to put those connectors on there? Something to note is, all the switch gear that's on there now, and by the way, the cruise wires that you see hanging down there, those are going to go over to another plug. And then there's going to be the light switch stuff coming across, hazard switch, and then there's going to be a fog light setup as well. At least maybe. I got something else in the works for that. But I wanted to be sure that I had clearance. And what's nice is the switch gear that's going to go on the dash, the sub harness is on the dash, will have to be attached into the main harness after the dash goes in. And it's kind of hard to see, but maybe you can see, I can still reach under the dash and get to this location to plug things in. So it's not 100% ideal maybe, but it's doable. Anyway, that is that. So those are on there. And yeah, now I can really start working out where everything's going to end up, getting everything finalized, and start getting this sheathed, and we will be that much closer to firing this motor. All right, a super Red Barn shout out to Scott Purdy 4838 again, and a personal comment from my wife when I was telling her about this. She said, I want you to thank that guy personally for spending our money on your car projects. Anyway, Scott had noticed the Corvette drive-by-wire throttle pedal assembly that I had done such a tidy little job of connecting to the tilt and pedal assembly, and he made mention of a part that's available from Tilton that allows you to mount a much tidier throttle position sensor down in that area. And I couldn't resist the tech, and I couldn't resist the tidiness. It appealed greatly to my OCD. And so let me show you what that is getting replaced with. It's super cool. All right, so this is my cool turnbuckle, which is actually quite nice, but no longer needed, unfortunately. And while this won't be a complete, unboxing, this is the Tilton component, and I already
opened it just to look at it, and you won't believe how much more simple and better this is. So check this out. And then this is the linkage assembly. And again, you can play with this, you know, where you put it and the lever ratio you're going after and all that. I'm going to start in sort of what looks to be a sort of neutral position. And if I take you down in here, you can see that this shaft that moves, that rotates, is D-shaped. And these two safety wire drilled fasteners right here are what locate a little disc sensor that's got a D-shaped opening in it that slides right on there, and that's it. And there's 6 wires that come out of here and go to the harness, and that is the entire setup. And if that isn't the coolest thing since sliced bread, I don't know what is. Let me go set this back in the car and you'll see what a transformation it makes to that footbox. Well, and before, where you saw I had to connect the lever up to, you know, my turnbuckle up to the lever, now this is just mechanically set in there. Obviously the, you know, brake pedal or the hydraulic lines go in. That's it. And I'll have, you know, just a little harness coming right around the corner here, tying into this connector, and I'm done. I got nothing up here now, and you can see what a difference that makes to routing hydraulic lines, wiring. I violated my prime directive though. I've got too many holes in the chassis. Hate that, so those will have to get patched at some point. So boy, oh boy, that has got to be my favorite viewer comment upgrade improvement to this build so far. So Scott Purdy, 4838, you got to find a way to reach out to me and tell me what size t-shirt you wear. I'd like to send you an At the Red Barn t-shirt for that great suggestion. What a difference. I mean, look at that. The unfortunate worst news, you know where this is going, I bet, right? But guess where there's another Corvette drive-by-wire throttle pedal, and how much tidier that would look with the same upgrade. So I got to run inside now and order another one because I got to make that upgrade to the LS car for no other reason than it's the coolest upgrade. So Scott, thank you very much. That is the 2026 leading cool comment from viewer so far. So guys, keep those comments coming because you never know, you might be the next winner of an At the Red Barn t-shirt. And that's going to do it for this week. So please, as always, like, share, subscribe, and tell all your friends. But most importantly, please leave me a comment because you never know. It may be your suggestion that finds its way onto one of these builds here at the Red Barn. So till we talk again, everybody take care. We'll see you all again real soon. Bye-bye.